Hey guys, how are you doing? This is Zed from Zed Outdoors and I hope you're having an awesome day. So today I'm back to see friend and talented craftswoman Deborah Schneebelli Morrell. Deborah, how are you doing?
Hi Zed, lovely to have you here again.
You too as well. Thank you so much for having me back into your space.
It's great, it's great.
So if you're not familiar with Deborah, you haven't watched any of my previous videos, I have covered some very detailed videos with Deborah covering the entire process for spoon carving. We've done a video, very detailed video on actually how to carve a standard eating spoon. We've also done a detailed video on how to carve a pocket spoon,
Yeah,
I believe.
That's my thing, yeah, really.
And those have been very, very popular videos that we've covered previously. We've also done another couple of videos on burnishing wooden spoons and also baking wooden spoons that we've done. All the videos in its entirety have been very, very popular. Now, one particular aspect of the spoon carving process that is something that has intrigued me, having watched Deborah at work and many other craftspeople at work, is the actual drawing of a spoon design on a piece of wood when you're doing the entire spoon carving process. Deborah has a very, I wouldn't say so a unique way, but you have a very, very good, efficient way in terms of how you approach your spoon design process. Would you say that's the case?
I hope it's efficient. I think it's just my way that I've developed and that I feel comfortable with, and I think creates a good sort of beginning to imagine and see what your spoon shape will be. And it's the kind of quality of the line and all that kind of thing is very important to me. So you're creating something definite. And I don't want to work with a template because I'm constrained already, right. And I don't like that.
We'll get into all the nuances as we move throughout this video. A couple of things to mention before we get straight into this video tutorial. Number one, needless to say, we'll be putting links in the description below to all of the previous videos that I have filmed with Deborah. Once again, the spoon carving videos, we've done two very detailed tutorials on that. Highly recommend, if you haven't seen those already, then to go and check those out by clicking on the links below. They cover the process in its entirety. As I mentioned, this process that we're looking at in this video is just honing in on that one particular section of the spoon carving process. The second thing, needless to say, I will be putting links below to Deborah's Instagram, where you can see the myriad of work that she's gotten up to previously, and also a link to her website, which is basically her store. Her spoons don't hang around for too long.
No, they don't.
But you'll be able to see the backlog of spoons that she has done. So needless to say, all the links will be to that below. So Deborah, with your kind permission, I think we'll begin.
Let's begin.
So guys, I hope you enjoy the rest of this video where Deborah Schneebelli Morrell is going to be teaching you how to draw a spoon design on a piece of wood. So Deborah, before we get into the actual meat and bones of the video, I think it's important to discuss your background in terms of art and design. Where would you like to begin in terms of your experience previously and what you've been up to?
Well, I'm art trained. I went to art school, I studied fine art. But before that, I was always obsessed with drawing, making things and the natural world. So it all kind of, pretty good ingredients really for becoming a spoon carver. And then subsequently I did my own work, my paintings and collage, and exhibited. But alongside that I did a lot of teaching, but my sort of main money earning thing was poor income, but I wrote a lot of craft books, and they were project-based books, how to make things in all sorts of different materials. I was really interested in tools and materials. And so I think I've trained my brain to know about the stages of a process, because I had to always break down a project into, say, a number of steps, and each step had to be very clear. And so I think I've sort of trained myself to think like that, really.
And in terms of kind of leading on to the spoon carving itself, how do you find it's impacted you when you approach the spoon carving process in its entirety? Do you think that's kind of made a big difference in terms of how you draw your designs and how you approach the carving?
I think it probably has made a difference, but it's a little bit hard to say because I don't know what it would be like, had I not been who I am, sort of thing. But I am very interested in the way that you learn about 3 dimensions and form, and that is all to do with intense looking, and drawing is very much to do with intense looking. So I think that aspect of it, I think, is really important. I mean, I'm still on a journey, you know, I could make better spoons, but yeah, that's all important to me.
So where would you actually like to begin in terms of the process itself of drawing a spoon design?
I think I'll just say that I don't use templates, and the time that I have used a template, I found it so constraining. I just thought all the possibilities that open up when you've got a blank and a piece of wood that you're going to make a spoon out of, they all get sort of squashed and lost, and you know, you've got to draw around this template that you might have designed but somebody else might have designed, and I know people really enjoy doing that, but I just didn't like it. I just thought there was so much learning that I couldn't do. So much was bypassed by using a template. So I want to use the process of drawing on the blank as part of becoming familiar with the wood, becoming familiar with the shape, imagining, almost like dreaming about what the spoon could be like. And I can't do it any other way, really.
And so, in terms of the process itself, the beginning of the drawing, what are we going to be looking at first? Are we looking at the kind of points at which you start to draw?
Well, I think we're going to look at the shape of the blank, really, which is, I've done a couple. This one is beech, just cut, and this is a slightly larger cherry one. So I always put the crank in, and I always do the back. So it's like, I always think of a banana, some people think of a boat, but that's the stage at which I will start to draw. I would never draw anything before that, because it's important that you have a sense of the shape, the form and the dimensions of a spoon while you're using your axe. If you're drawing on it too early, you're going to be losing the drawing, and then you have to redraw. I don't want to do that. I want this drawing to be the drawing that is the spoon.
And so to get to this point, needless to say that in the previous videos that we've filmed in terms of how to carve a spoon, we've shown, haven't we, in detail your process to get to this stage?
Yeah, we have actually probably even shown me drawing a spoon shape on the piece of wood. I don't actually ever quite know what kind of spoon is going to go on there. Unless it's a very short piece of wood, then it'll be a short spoon. But at this stage, it's still before my imaginings almost. I've just got the blanks in my hand. I'll take this one, and I'll just take my pencil. And the first most important thing is to understand where the central line is on your spoon. So I usually make a point here, and then I'll look at it with my eyes and I'll foreshorten it, so I know that this point is going to correspond to that one. I'll foreshorten it again, and I'll put another point up here which corresponds to that one and that one. So I know that that is going to be a straight line pretty much. You can use a flexible ruler. Sometimes when you're bending a flexible ruler, they don't actually come true, and this way of doing it just is all about sensing the shape. So when I look like that, it's going slightly off to that side, so I might just bring it over like that. So that's my central line. I think to understand asymmetry, you have to start from symmetry. So this is your symmetry, one side and the other side. Then I put just a little bit more than a third up of the size of the spoon. I'll put a line here. So this is the low point of the spoon. And I will draw a line like that. I like to make definite lines. Yeah, and so I'm going to bring this one. So I imagine, I just see that space and I sort of think, yeah, that's about the same distance there. And I'll bring that round. First of all, kind of tentative marks, but when I feel secure about it, I will then draw it.
And so, a question, and this is also referring to myself, drawing is not one of my strong points. I think maybe a lot of those people watching will be in a similar position. What are any tips and suggestions you can give? So even, for example, just drawing this part here in order to get it, I guess, symmetrical, kind of even, and kind of an identical shape on both sides. What's some little tips and tricks?
Well, the quality of the line is really important because, you know, this is a very definite thing you're doing now. You're actually creating what spoon you're going to make on the wood. Until this stage, you really don't know. So make sure your line is definite. I've often seen people, they have a blank and they basically do this. Well, I can't really do it myself because I'm not very good at doing funny lines. They kind of do it like this, and then they might do a kind of thing like this, and they, you know, and then like that kind of thing. And you think, well, hang on a minute, that's not going to give you very much guidance because you haven't drawn your central line. So you're basically at sea, really, when you do that kind of thing. And also, these kind of lines here, what you're going to do with the axe, you can do a bit there, you know, you've got to actually mean what you say. So I just have very good strong lines. I then, when I've done that arc there, which meets up at this low point of the spoon, I turn the whole thing round. I hold it sort of against me here, and then I think, how long do I want the spoon to be? What kind of spoon is it? If it's a pocket spoon, it's usually bigger and the handle's a bit shorter. So I'll do a line like that. And I'm already thinking, if the line is that the length of the spoon, it's going to be too narrow. So I'm going to actually widen these. So this kind of adjustment happens quite a lot. So I'm going to bring that line in like that. And then I'm going to bring this one like that. And I always work on one side and then I work on the other side. Okay. So now I've got to think, am I going to make a symmetrical spoon or shall I make an asymmetric spoon? And I quite like doing a spoon where it's a right-handed spoon and we might come up to here. But then this one, I'll bring a sweep right round like that. See, the line is a continuous line, even though I might be doing it in small strokes. Okay, I'm going to bring this more a bit flat here. So this one, I'm always sort of conscious about what's going on here. Now I'm going to turn it round again. So this is a bit narrower here because we've got a curve. So I'm just going to bring this in a bit. So I'm just thinking now, do I like that shape? It's sort of okay. It's sort of all right. And then I can do little small adjustments. I might make it a bit bigger. And I'm always, you know, when I do that kind of thing, I'm thinking I'm going to cut up to, if it's a thick line, I'm going to cut up to the outside of the line. This to me looks a little bit shallower than that, so I might bring this up like that. But basically, that's it. That's the bowl. Now, if I make a pocket spool, I probably actually stop the handle about here, the length of the handle. And what I always do on handles is I always take a point here and a point there, and then I just basically join these up like that, and the same on this side. I can already see this is wider on one side than the other, so I'm going to have to adjust that.
What are your thoughts, for example, at this stage of using a ruler? Is that something you'd advise?
No, I wouldn't use a ruler. I don't think if you use a ruler, you'll never be able to draw a straight line. You know, you can be as good as a ruler. I mean, you can if you feel insecure, and people do feel I understand that people feel insecure about drawing. I really do understand that. So that's like incredibly simple, but the spoon won't look like that. So I'm now thinking it's not quite right, so I want to bring this line here into here and turn it there. So I've now either got the choice of making it into a pinch like this, or I could do it, bring it in here and bring it out like that. So there's two choices. I think on this one I quite like this shape. It's a little bit more elegant at the moment. So I'll bring that there. And then I always have a look, because I want these two sides of the handle to look right. And this is if you foreshorten the spoon, you absolutely see the symmetry brilliantly. So I can see that there's more of a belly there than there is here. I might have to sort of do that with the axe a bit. And then, do I want it to go out like that? I think what I'll do is I'll take a point here and a point here, and I'll just bring it in a little bit, like that. Always thinking that I'm trying to make an elegant curve, which... Okay, so let's just get that look again. That's quite good. And these lines are very, very important now, to have this flow coming down here, there, and it's joining the bowl. You know, you could, you could bring this line down if you wanted to. This is just to show you, it's a bit confusing. You could bring this line down here and bring it up like that. And that would be a spoon that would be that kind of way of doing it. And actually on this spoon, I did draw it like this, but then I thought if it's going to have these, which are very symmetrical, I can't really have an asymmetrical spoon, so I've changed it and I've drawn a different shape of the spoon. And I do actually do that. I do further drawings as I'm carving, because I think I might be able to refine it. So for now, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave it like this. And that is now ready for the axe. So, a question for you. This is a topic I know is discussed a lot within the spoon carving community, and that is, you have obviously the bowl, the neck and the handle. Is it kind of an ideal ratio between the three of them, so you end up with a spoon that looks nice but is also holds and functions well as well? Well, I think if it's an eating spoon, it's usually 1/3 and then 2/3 handle, but I sort of don't really... I have it in my mind, but I sort of quite like disobeying rules, really. I just like to feel that it looks right to me when I've drawn it. I know with this one, I'm going to probably make some adjustments on it. I'm not quite sure about that right-handed thing there, but I'm not going to change it now. But this is a pocket spoon because it's got a bigger bowl and a shorter handle. So I could do another one. So the same process, middle, here, there, and then joining them up.
So you get your centre line first.
Yeah, I can't do anything without the centre line. I would just be lost. It sort of anchors you really to the kind of whole balance of a spoon. So similarly, I'll do my point there. Some people use a compass at this point, and they'll do a circle there, and then they'll do another circle here, and then they'll join up the two circles. I think Oren does that, doesn't he?
Oren Hetzaroni from Israel.
I think that Jane Mickleborough might do it as well. I mean, you will get a perfect symmetrical spoon that way. I don't know whether I'm a bit kind of lazy and I don't want to have more tools to do things, or whether I just like the kind of way that a spoon has got to evolve itself. So I'm going to do this all by eye. I'm just measuring. So that looks about, sometimes I might do this. So I might measure that distance and then I'll turn that over, measure that distance, and then I'm quite pleased with myself because I got it right. So I might do a different kind of spoon with a more of a slant here. It's probably going to be too big, the bowl. It's too...
And where in the bowl, for those watching, would you advise the crank actually sitting?
Oh, well, quite far back, if you do the kind of spoons I do. I've recently done a spoon that Dave Cockcroft showed me how to do with a little hump. And then the crank is really here, right at the back. It's a different kind of technique. And I must say, I've never done it before, and I found it incredibly difficult because it's nice. It's nice, it looks nice, but it's a different way of making a spoon. And also, you would cut it differently to this. You'd actually axe from there down, separately to that. I'm not liking this very much here, so I think I've gone a bit too wide. Try and remember what size mouths are. Okay. And then this turning around business, I think I'm going to do a sort of flatter-ended spoon here. So I just kind of make them up as they come into my mind. This might be a bit of a serving spoon, actually. And then that's a bit uncomfortable, so make some nice corners there. Shapes are really interesting. You know, they just tell you whether they're good or not, and if they're off, they're just off and they look horrible. So sometimes I'm looking and I can't see what's wrong, but I know something's wrong, which is difficult. So that's when I might do a bit more of this kind of thing. And at this point, I think I'll probably cut on the inner line. So then I'll do a longer spoon here. I never go right to the end. This has been recently cut, so it's not cracking, it's not checked at all. But, you know, if the wood's a bit older, then I would cut quite a lot off. So let's do that same thing where we bring okay, and the same thing on this side. It is difficult to, you know, we're not the same on both sides, are we, of our bodies, so it's actually quite difficult to try and make it symmetrical. I think I try to make it as symmetrical as possible. I'm not obsessed. It's much more to do with balance than symmetry, I think. Okay, so this one I think we might do a pinch. So we come in like this. So the line has really got intention. It's like half a heart there. If you do the other half, it'd be a heart. And then always I'm aware of this distance away from the centre. And then that one probably comes about there. I'm going to turn it over, I think.
On this section here, so for the benefit of those watching, you've also got to think about the structure and integrity of the final spoon based on the design, don't you? For example, certain things are too thin or whatnot.
Well, yeah, I mean this, yeah. Well, you would never want that, oh dear. I'm going to have to make that work with a knife. You would never really, obviously if I have a thin neck, it's got to have the depth here, but I wouldn't go thinner than that with the drawing, because the knife can go thinner, it can make a chamfer here, but you don't want to go thinner. I mean, a lot of people who, when they start, they make the mistake, they have a deep bowl and a thin neck, and those are, you know, difficult to do and not really spoony, are they? A deep bowl. If you look at sort of manufactured spoons, none of them have got deep bowls. Okay, I'm going to do that thing because I like this thing of bringing a very gentle curve here, which I create by just taking off the bit at the top. I'm going to have a look. So that needs to come down to here. Yeah. So I might do something like eventually come in here and then come out, but I'm not going to draw it because that's something I would do with a knife later. So I'm not going to. I know some people draw exactly what the spoon is going to be, and they just work towards that. But I'm not going to. I just don't work like that really. I can refine it at a later stage. So that's number 2.
So Deborah, we're going to do another final drawing.
We are, yeah. Well, if I've done a particularly successful spoon, I might want to try and make another one. So I might look through some of my spoon shapes. That one I made last night. It's very, very simple. Mulberry. This is completely mad psychedelic spoon, some kind of cypress. It's got a very nice crank on it, and it's got, obviously in the template you don't do this, but this has got a ridge down the middle there to make the feathering on the handle. This is a sort of classic spoon with a bowl a bit like this one, with a longer handle. Incredibly simple. So that might not have varied too much from the template. But then something like this, for instance, I might not have drawn the template exactly like that, but I would have refined it with the knife work to make this kind of rather sort of feminine body, really. This sweet little scoopy, one of my favourite spoons, is Swamp Cypress. That's got a lovely little crank on it, and that would, you know, that would fit very nicely there. That's a beech one, which this is beech the blank. Similar, but I never draw around a spoon, but I might just sense its shape and proportions. I haven't made one of those for a while, so I might try and do one like that on this beech. So have a really good look at that bowl. It's going to be smaller here, so the bottom of the spoon is about there, which is exactly what I usually do. So the end of the bowl is there, the bottom of the bowl is about here, and I'm now going, oh hang on, I've got to do my central line, haven't I? I don't really know how everybody else works. I've never really discussed it. So this one has got a nice slope here, so I'm trying to get a bit more of a slope coming down.
Something I know we spoke off camera in the build-up to this video, and that is you were talking about something I struggle with, which is having some confidence when actually using a pencil and drawing and not kind of jittering around and kind of doing things loosely. Is that something you maybe want to touch on briefly? Just having a bit of confidence?
I think confidence with any technique or any tool comes with practice. If you haven't done a lot of drawing, you won't be able to just be confident with your line. But the more you do it, the more confident you'll become. I think you have to be brave sometimes. You have to be not afraid of making a mark. And I think one thing I do want to say is, what is the purpose of drawing? It's not just that you're drawing the spoon that you want to carve. You're actually intensely looking at the blank that you've got. You can't draw without looking, and the process of drawing and looking turns into kind of knowledge. It's seeing, and seeing is what is important. So you're learning about the wood, you know, that you're seeing the grain, you're understanding, you know, where the lines, the medullary rays might be, or you're understanding all that at the same time. You're understanding the kind of shape, what shape the spoon will become, and it's to do with the kind of reality of the wood that you've got, combining that with your imagination of the spoon that you want to create from that wood. I mean, it's a sort of strangely kind of magical process, really, is that humans are able to do this. We're able to construct an idea, even if it's a fluid idea, and I think it is a fluid idea with me. You're able to construct that in your mind's eye, in your imagination, and then transfer it to a piece of wood. And I think the drawing is part of your armoury, it's part of your technique, and it's part of your pencil is as much a tool as a knife is. And I think it just gives you this sense of, you know, you're being deliberate. This is a deliberate thing we're doing now. I don't want to be frightened of a line. I want the line to do what I want it to do. I'm not, I know that it's not a knife cut or an axe blow. I know that I can actually change my line. And I could even change it with the, so I think I might do a very little spoon like this. So this also will have started like this. But I want to make this into a round, not a very common shape that's used actually, but I want to make it round. If I make a thicker line, I'm always conscious that one side of that line is the line that I want and one is not. So I think it's the inside of that line. And then I would bring this up to here.
So you've just touched on something, and that is when you're, for example, the lines that you've drawn, when you then proceed to carve, are you carving to the outside of that line, to the inside?
It depends. It depends, and I have to remember which line I'm carving to. I think I would, with an axe, I probably would carve it to the outside. But I will know when I'm doing it. For instance, this is definitely the inside because the outside is not a good shape. I mean, I probably would bring this like that. But you can't really do this sort of things with an axe. So I'm putting it there as an indication of where I might go with a knife, but definitely an axe wouldn't be a... So at this point, you see, I can see that shape, that curve there is much bigger than that curve, but I don't always know why. So that's a nice little scoopy spoon there. It's got more of a curve here, so I'm going to put more of a curve there because, and now it would obviously be the inside of the line that what I don't want to happen is to have one side which has got a bit of straight and one's a bit of a curve. So always remember to do this. And when I do this, it looks really good. It gives you so much more information than actually looking at flat on. I mean, photographing a spoon flat on is really difficult because it doesn't describe anything about the spoon, really. It doesn't describe the crank or the shape. It just describes the sort of plan from the top. I might be trying to be a little bit more careful because I'm very aware that, you know, people are going to be following my every word, but I think the thing is to try and relax a bit as well. So yeah, that is a different kind of spoon, and you can draw this line across here so that you're familiar with that is the low point, and obviously it corresponds to the high point here, which is there, but I will bring it to here. So I axe that off the back. So they are ready for well, first of all, there would be the saw. So when I've got this, I will take the saw lines there and there, there and there, and there and here. And then these curves would all be done with a knife in there. Wouldn't take the axe in there. So that's 3 nice little blanks. I don't think I've ever repeated a spoon. You know, I don't even think I'd know how to do it. And I think that's one of the things I don't like about templates. I mean, I do really respect people who use them and who make really beautiful spoons, and they make repeat spoons. For me, almost in the same way that I use lots of different kinds of woods, I want to use lots of different kinds of spoon shapes because I don't want to be bored. I want to have a sense of discovery. Every time I make a spoon, it's got to reward me in some way. If I repeat something, I don't think I would be rewarded enough. And I think the worst kind of commission, which I know some people really enjoy, is to ask somebody may ask you to make 20 teaspoons or something. I just think I would go completely bonkers, actually. And I don't actually even think I could do it. So I hope that, you know, showing this sort of process and some of the little tricks really will make it easier for people to not use a template, but to use their own imagination and to develop a skill of drawing, which is about seeing, and seeing is about knowing, and that's how I think you make a good spoon.
A couple of things to wrap up on. Number one, to mention to the viewers watching that we're going to be doing a separate video on different forms of pencils and pens.
Oh yeah.
To kind of draw on green wood. So it's a bit of a geeky video talking about that. So if that video is already out, it'll be linked below in the description. And just a final question I have for you. So obviously watching you do the outline that you have done on this video is obviously the first time I've seen your process as well, in its entirety in terms of your approach to drawing a spoon design. Would it be an idea, this is something that I've been thinking about as I've been filming with you today, is to have a sketchbook, for example, like graph paper, and to practice, just generally, just to kind of practice the confidence of drawing spoon designs and whatnot. Do you think that's something to consider?
I think it could be. I think graph paper could help, but you don't want to have an aid like that, which actually then stops you from trying to sense yourself whether something's symmetrical or whether the distances are right, because basically you've got all the equipment yourself with your eyes. You know basically when something's off. You just know it. It's being able to convert that knowledge into a facility of using a pencil. So yeah, by all means, just, you know, do a few spoon drawings. I think lots of people do that actually. I tend to draw on the wood. I don't think I've ever drawn let's make this spoon in a notebook at all. I more collect spoons and then I look at them intensely and I think, you know, that's a really interesting bowl shape, and isn't that a fantastic transition to the handle, and look at that crank and what a seamless line. And then I sort of try and absorb how the spoon maker has actually created that. But I know that everybody's got their own ways to do it, and I know that for beginners it's lovely to have a template, because you know, you end up with a symmetrical spoon, or a spoon that you can use. I've actually still got my first very wonky spoon, which I just like, you know, and it is completely off. I must have drawn it, but it didn't come out like one of these.
So there you have it, my friends. That is a wrap for this video. Deborah, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
That was really insightful for me as well.
It's always interesting for me, because I don't talk to myself like that. I need someone to come and ask me questions, and then I can actually make sort of concrete what my thoughts are. It's interesting.
Because it's one of those topics, and this is obviously what inspired us to kind of collaborate on this video, is it's a topic that's, I've noticed anyway, it's not hugely discussed.
No,
per se.
Really,
it's kind of skipped over a little bit, and people get onto the tools and this and that. Whereas the design aspect itself is something, I felt that it just wasn't spoken about enough. And what kind of inspired this video, kind of behind the scenes, is obviously Deborah's art background and just private conversations between me and you.
I think so, yeah.
Because I think you then taught, is it a workshop you taught fairly recently?
Oh, actually at the Northern Bowl gathering, I did a little workshop on how to draw a template. Right. And I think I had 4 or 5 people, and we all stood up. I always stand up when I do it. I can't sit down and draw. And I just basically led them through it. You know, draw a line here, turn your spoon round. They just followed me absolutely. And they just loved it. It was so nice for me. And one person said, "God, that's the best spoon I've ever drawn," you know, and then they went on to make the spoon. And I think they just had much more confidence. And I think it's really important to you know, you grow in confidence, don't you, as you learn to be a spoon carver and you become more familiar with your tools. Well, a pencil is one of your tools. And I think you need to have that confidence right from the beginning. You have to have the confidence from finding the wood. You know, you need to have that kind of train of confidence that goes all the way through. And I think it's very fundamental, drawing, you know, and you know, seeing that you've got all the planes aligned and everything. That's why I look at it like this. Looking is incredibly important. That's one of your tools as well. You know, if you watch really experienced spoon carvers, they are looking the whole time. They're picking it up, they're looking. You know, you just cannot make a spoon unless you do that. It's a bit like being a chef. You know, you can't make a meal unless you're tasting it. And you've got to, all the way through, you've got to be checking. And so I just think drawing a template, learning how to use a pencil, how to make a straight line, or how to make a bold line, is an important aspect. And it'll just feed so many other aspects of making a spoon, you know. And you do need confidence. You know, I'm always nervous that I might not make a good spoon, and sometimes I don't make a good spoon. And that's often to do with mood as well, or what's happened, you know, and things like that in your life. But I think as long as you've got all these tools and the confidence of using the tools, you're safer if you're confident with using a knife and an axe. You make a better shape of a spoon if you're confident with using a pencil. And the quality of the line is important as well.
A discussion I had with another craftsman, a mutual friend, Dan Lawrence. At the time of filming this, me and him only filmed just recently as well. And it's something we spoke about a lot off camera, but as well as on camera. And that is, he places a lot of importance on paying attention to the spoon itself, you know, the design, the usability, how it feels. You know, don't just skip over that. Don't just think it's got a bowl, it's got a handle and it's done. You know, take a lot of time. And he was talking about, I believe it was off camera, where he has this exercise where he gets people to either close their eyes or blindfold them, and he gives people lots of random spoons to hold. And to kind of do a pretend kind of scooping or kind of stirring. and just passing loads and loads of spoons to say, well, what feels good in the hand and the fingers and the dexterity, etc. And then to pick the ones completely blindfolded or kind of like eyes closed, to say, well, which ones, let's put to one side the ones that you like the feel of. And what you found is that the majority of the spoons that people would choose were not the prettiest, right?
Oh, right,
they typically weren't the prettiest, but, and they'd even look at it and be a little bit surprised, like, oh my God, I can't believe I chose this spoon. But it was just to kind of denote that how important it was just to start paying more and more attention to the design of the spoon and how it feels and how it holds. And it obviously starts off with the drawing, you know?
Yeah, and actually that approach is a really good approach, and that might have come out, Dan's art education like I am, that is one thing that I would have always done. I mean, and when I taught art as well, it would be, for instance, children, close your eyes, and then feel your face, feel the bony bits and feel the soft bits and feel the symmetry and all that, and draw it with your eyes shut. And it takes away all one's prejudices. You know, all you're left with is the kind of pure form and how you feel it. And feeling is really important. I mean, carving a spoon is so incredibly interesting. I mean, I would never have known how interesting it was, even though I am a bit of a nerd for kind of analysing things. But you have so many decisions, and almost the fact that it's a small object, it kind of enlarges the possibilities of what you can do. And so I think, with all your tools, pencil including, you're just gathering knowledge all the time, and you're putting that knowledge to use. The more experienced you are, it would almost become an automatic thing that you would make a very beautiful spoon. I mean, like Adam Hawker, for instance. Well, there are many spoon carvers I could name, but it's just so much part of their whole process that they're not thinking all the time, do this or have a bold line there or think about this measurement. It's just part of the way they operate.
Because something I always encourage everyone to do, and this doesn't matter what discipline of craft or skills this applies to, but is to really take time to observe good people's work and really take
and
time.
And feel it.
Yeah.
Feel it as well.
Because the spoons is like I've stressed to everyone from day one. I get lots of PMs and messages and comments and tags from people asking for a bit of advice, and one of the main bits of advice I always give people is try to acquire a really good spoon from a maker that you like. And it's not about copying, but it's about having something physical in front of you that you can feel, you can hold. There's a big difference between looking at a photograph or seeing something on video and actually holding something, and really taking the time to look and think, why is this spoon or whatever item it is, why is it so good? And really taking the time, because if you think about it, a lot of people carve spoons, but there's this kind of a lot of the time, unless you're paying attention, it's really hard to say, why is this a really good spoon and why is this not necessarily a good spoon, right?
Yeah.
But essentially they're the same thing, right? It's a handle, it's a bowl, etc., etc. But then you start to notice, obviously there's a lot of things that, unless you take the time to actually sit there and observe and pay attention to, you start to realise actually there are some disciplines at play here. There are some kind of rules, shall we say.
Well, there are, but you're getting into very abstract aesthetics now, because there is a feeling that, it's not just spoons, but a painting, an object, a sculpture or something like that. When the observer looks at it and it's what I call kind of right, good, it's actually a feeling that you get. It's not an analysis. It's not an analysis about why is it good, could come later, but the initial reaction is, that just feels right, and so there are some spoon carvers who do that miraculously, actually, and when you occasionally do it yourself, it's just a lovely, rewarding feeling, but that is a very, very big subject, and lots of people have written about it, including the sort of psychoanalytic kind of world as well, on world of aesthetics, and I think that there is a sense that when you get that feeling that something is good, you are engaging not just with the object itself, but the journey of the maker of the object. And that's the kind of true engagement with something that is very beautiful or aesthetically pleasing or well balanced, or, you know. So it's not just the object, it's the kind of intent, the process that's gone into it, and it's the connection between your perception of it and actually how it was made. It's really interesting.
We need another video follow-up. Philosophy Hour with Deb and Zed. That's what we need.
Yeah, let's do that.
We should have like a smoke jacket, pipe and slippers. That's what we need.
And then we need a couch.
That's it. One of those moustaches. But yeah, like you said, it's a very, very deep subject. It's something I'm not as au fait with anywhere close to yourself. But it's something, even on a basic level, I spent enough, very honoured and grateful, including yourself, to spend time with a lot of very talented makers and across many disciplines.
Oh yeah, amazing.
And it's always an interesting thing, because I get a lot of PMs, once again, people sending me a spoon or whatever, and thinking kind of, you know, what do you think? And it's something I'm still kind of grappling with, you know, how to kind of answer, you know, because it's obviously, it's part of it's subjective, like you said, but a part of it is, you know, there are certain traits of generally a good item. But yeah, that's a very, very deep subject. But this is, obviously opening up that portal to starting to think about.
Think about it, yeah. Think about why a spoon is a good spoon.
Yeah.
You know, you'll come to your own conclusions, I think.
Yeah, so that was it, guys. There's a lot to take in there.
Sorry about that.
But no, it was all great. Really do appreciate you watching up until now. So just to do a final recap, as we mentioned at the very beginning of this video, I have filmed with Deborah previously some very detailed videos on spoon carving, both a standard eating spoon as well as a pocket spoon, both very well received videos. And we've done a couple of videos on the kind of decoration, quote unquote, aspects of spoon carving and green woodworking. So links to all of those will be down below. On my visit today to see Deborah at a home studio here in London, we are going to be hopefully filming another one, possibly even two videos as a kind of part of a mini series on this particular visit down. One of those will hopefully be a bit of a geek out video on pencils and pens.
Oh yeah,
for drawing on kind of green woodworking. So that video, if it's out already by the time you're watching this, once again, a link to that will be down below in the description. And last but not least, as I mentioned at the very beginning, there'll be a link below to Deborah's website where you can see her spoons that she does have for sale when she does post them up. Like I said, they don't hang around for too long. And also we'll be putting a link down below to Deborah's Instagram where you can see the myriad of work that she's gotten up to previously. As we've kind of touched on in this video and previous videos, Deborah has a lot of skill and competency within a range of crafts. Every time I see her, I notice another craft. I'm like, I didn't know you do that and stuff. So yeah, she's very, very talented, like in terms of what she does. So there you go, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed this video. And one thing I think we need to stress above and beyond everything, that everything we've touched on in this video is simply Deborah's process. She's not saying it's the only way or it's the right way.
No, definitely.
It's simply Deborah's process, and hopefully it's an aid in your journey, whatever it is that you're making, and hopefully it adds on a bit more kind of knowledge, to your carving journey itself. So Deborah, sincerely thank you once again.
Pleasure.
For everything.
It's great fun.
For everything in this video. So guys, hope you enjoyed this video. And as always, I hope whatever you're doing, you have a blessed day, a blessed week ahead. For myself, Zed Outdoors, and Deborah Schneebelli Morrell, peace out.
Oh yeah, peace out.